I thought my friend was helping me fix my problems, until I realized he was the reason they kept happening. At first, it felt like I was just going through a rough phase, small issues stacking up one after another. Nothing major on its own, but together, enough to make everything feel off. Missed opportunities, misunderstandings with people, things going wrong at the worst possible time. And through all of it, he was there. Always ready to help, always offering advice, always stepping in when things got complicated. That's why I trusted him, because he wasn't just around during the good moments. He showed up when things weren't working. When I needed someone to rely on, he would listen patiently, then break everything down like it made sense. Like, there was always a clear reason behind what was happening. And most of the time, I believed him, because his explanations felt logical, simple, easy to accept. If something went wrong, he had a way of framing it so it didn't feel random. There was always a cause, always a mistake, something I could fix. And I tried. I followed his advice, changed small things, adjusted how I handled situations, thinking it would make things better. But it didn't. The problems didn't stop. They just repeated in slightly different ways, enough to feel new, but similar enough to feel familiar. At first, I thought I just wasn't doing enough, that I needed to try harder, listen better, pay more attention, because he seemed so certain, so confident in what he was telling me. And when someone sounds that sure, you start doubting yourself instead. The pattern went on longer than I want to admit. Weeks, maybe months. Situations would go wrong. I'd turn to him, he'd explain it, and I'd follow what he said, over and over again, until something small changed. Not the problem, but the way I looked at it, because one day, something didn't line up the way it usually did. It was a simple situation, something minor that had gone wrong again. And like always, I went to him, told him what happened, expected the same kind of explanation, the same clarity he always gave. But this time something felt off. Not in what he said, but in how quickly he said it. Like he already knew exactly what had happened before I finished explaining. That was the first moment I paused, not outwardly, just internally, because that kind of certainty didn't make sense. Not without all the details. I let it go at first, but the thought stayed, quiet, persistent, and once it was there, I started noticing more. The way he would sometimes mention things I hadn't told him yet. The way his guesses were always too accurate. The way his advice often led me back into situations that felt familiar, not better. Just repeated, and slowly everything started connecting. Not in a sudden realization, but in pieces. Small moments linking together until they formed something I couldn't ignore. This wasn't just bad luck. It wasn't me making the same mistakes. It was something else. Something controlled. And the closer I looked, the clearer it became. The problems weren't random. They were predictable. Almost like they had been set up to happen. And the only person who was always present before, during, and after every situation was him. That realization didn't hit like anger. It hit like clarity. Quiet, heavy, certain. Because suddenly, every explanation he had given me felt different. Not helpful, not supportive, but strategic. Like he wasn't solving problems. He was managing them. Keeping them just controlled enough to stay involved. Just complicated enough to keep me dependent on him. I didn't confront him right away. I didn't need to. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You start noticing everything differently. And when I finally looked at him again, I didn't see the friend who had been helping me. I saw the person who had been behind it all. And that was the moment everything changed. Not because he said anything, but because I finally understood what had been happening the entire time.